Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Govijana-vallabha Girdle-dhari Govijana-vallabha Girdle-dhari Yasodanandana Channa-rodhasam Yasodanandana Channa-rodhasam Yamunatira-vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana-vallabha Girdle-dhari Gopijana-vallabha Girdle-dhari Yasodanandan Channa-rodhasam Yamunatira-vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana-vallabha Girdle-dhari Gopijana-vallabha Girdle-dhari Yasodanandana Channa Yasodanandana Channa Yamunatira-vanachari Yamunatira-vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Pad Brahmā Jaksharisto Tarasata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Ananta Vaishnava Vrindaki, oh, glories to the assembled devotees, oh, glories to the assembled devotees, oh, glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, Srimad Bhagavatam Gantaraj Ki Jai. Krishna Srimad. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, text number 29. Tam kvaṇac-caraṇāmbhojāṁ mada-vihvala-locanām kāñcī-kalāpa-vilasad dukūla-cchanna-rodhasam tam kvaṇac-caraṇāmbhojāṁ mada-vihvala-locanām kāñcī-kalāpa-vilasad dukūla-cchanna-rodhasam tam kvaṇac-caraṇāmbhojāṁ mada-vihvala-locanām kāñcī-kalāpa-vilasad dukūla-cchanna-rodhasam. Mataji's. Tam, that body, kvaṇat, tinkling with ankle bells, caraṇa-ambhojāṁ, with lotus feet, mada, intoxication, vivala, overwhelmed, locanām, with eyes, kāñcī-kalāpa, with a girdle made of golden ornaments, vilasat, shining, dukūla, by fine cloth, channa, covered, rodhasam, having hips, Translation: the body given up by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight, when day and night meet, a time which kindles passion. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by element of rajas, took it for a damsel whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth over which shone a girdle. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As early morning is the period for spiritual cultivation, the beginning of the evening is the period for passion. Demoniac men are generally very fond of sex enjoyment. Therefore, they very much appreciate the approach of evening. The demons took the approach of the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman, and they began to adore her in various ways. They imagined the twilight to be a very beautiful woman with tinkling bangles on her feet, a girdle on the hips, and beautiful breasts. And for their sexual satisfaction, they imagined the appearance of this beautiful girl before them. Jai. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jananjana-shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Durga Me Parimendasya Skalat Pate Gati Bahu Swakripa Justidanena Shantu Avalambanam. So thank you very much for allowing me to give this class. It is very nice to be here. It's very nice to see you devotees. Nice to see you again, Prabhu. I haven't seen you for a while. Very good. And so we'll try to say something about this sloka. So this chapter is about Lord Brahma's efforts to recreate the universe. We've been steadily going through it. The Prabhus have been recounting, but his efforts to create the universe can be described as being a little daunting when we read that Lord Brahma, who is Adhikavaya, the firstborn, who is most intelligent and has gigantic powers of creation, he's fleeing from the demons that he created. So proliferation of demoniac persons, he created a proliferation of demoniac persons in the beginning. So how is this that he's in charge of creation, but he's also in charge of the mode of passion, Raja Guna, right? So both actually go in hand. So you need to create something, you need passion. If you're in the mode of goodness, you won't worry about creation so much. So as we conditioned souls are aware, the mode of passion is very difficult to control. So Lord Brahma is situated almost in a pure state of goodness as far as it can be, as far as possible in the material world. But nevertheless, we have the example of when Lord Brahma, in his first day, I mean, we are talking about subsequent creations right now at this point in time. We know that Lord Brahma is halfway through his life, so say he's 50 years old, and there's 360 days in 1 year, so you multiply that, 50 by 360. So this is how many times he's recreated the world, right? So we're at this stage. But in his very, very first day of creation, we know that he was bewildered when he was born. He looked around and he just saw just the angry seas, and he was sitting in the lotus, and he's looking in the stem of the lotus, and he hears the word tapa, so he performed his tapa, and then gradually he got the knowledge by which to create. So his first creation came from his mind, and there were the 4 Kumaras. So keeping in mind that Lord Brahma's function in this material world is to procreate the species. The material universe has already been set up by Lord Vishnu. Everything is there. Lord Brahma just needs to create all these bodies in which to populate this universe and satisfy that urge of the living entities who are busting to come out of the lotus stem of Lord Brahma. It is said that the stem is white hot with the living entities just wanting to come out and enjoy the material universe. So Lord Brahma solicits the help of the 4 Kumaras. Please help me procreate the universe. So as we know, the 4 Kumaras, they're situated on the transcendental platform. They were just young boys, and they don't want to get any older because they don't want to get engaged in this activity of procreation, because it can lead one down the path of being tangled in the modes, and they're very wise to that. They say no, we're not doing it. So then Lord Brahma, when that happened, there's a slight momentary flash of anger that came through Lord Brahma, that these people refused me. And then what happened when that anger came through Lord Brahma? Lord Shiva was born out of his forehead. Boom, there's Lord Shiva. So then Lord Brahma asked Lord Shiva, you procreate the universe. So Lord Shiva obliged, and what happened? All these Rudras came out of Lord Shiva, and they went all over the universe. And as we know, Lord Shiva is in charge of Tamagun, so the Rudras were his sons. So they engaged in Tamagun activities, and they created chaos, and they started to destroy the universe. So Lord Brahma asked Lord Shiva, you just meditate. You just sit there and meditate on Lord Krishna. And Lord Shiva obliged, and Lord Brahma went on with the business of procreation. So that was that point, that momentary flash of anger. So now, lots of creations later, Lord Brahma is once again performing that service of populating the universe with 8,400,000 different species of jivas. So he is faced with a difficult situation. So how is that? How is it that first living entities come out of these demons? So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapi smaram bhavan tyajiti antikalevaram tam tam evati konteya sada tad lavapapita. So whatever state of being one remembers at the time of death, that state of being he attains in his next life. Of this there is no doubt. So it's actually tragic that the jivas that were there in the last day of Lord Brahma, when they were annihilated, they went back into the body of Vishnu, but they brought that consciousness with them. They didn't get liberated. So when they come out in the next day of Lord Brahma, so Lord Brahma is asleep for a very, very long time. So these jivas, they're in that body of Lord Brahma, so they're very, very eager to come out. So at the beginning of the next day, so who comes out first when Lord Brahma starts creating? The Akshas and the Rakshasas come bursting out, let us out, they're coming. They're there, right? But they sort of came out, you might say, prematurely. Why? Because there's nothing for them to eat, right? They're looking around, there's nothing to eat. So who did they want to eat? Lord Brahma. So Rakshas said, eat him, eat him. But Lord Brahma is saying, well, I'm your father, it's not right for you to eat me. And that was the Rakshasas. The Yakshasas, they were hanging back a bit, but they also agreed with the Rakshasas that he should not have protection, he should be eaten. And this is an unusual thing. I just want to speak a little bit about what I know about the Yakshas, because actually the Yakshas are great guards. They protect. So we know that the Yakshas protect the treasury of Kuvera. And sometimes we see yakshas on buildings to protect the buildings. You see that? And even on the Vyasa in our temple, we have these fierce creatures with lion bodies and faces with moustaches underneath the Vyasa protecting Srila Prabhupada. Yakshas, right? So they're very protective, but the other thing is that they have uncontrollable temper. They're very, very easily upset. So that is given in the Bhagavatam a couple of times, and also in the Mahabharata, when Bhima actually made it to Yaksha-loka looking for his beautiful 1,000-petal lotus that his wife Draupadi wanted, and he saw Yaksha-loka, so he just blew a conch. He stood there and he blew the conch. How dare he blow the conch? And all these yakshas come flying out of the castle, and they all started fighting with Bhima. But actually, because Bhima was so strong, his incarnation of Vayu, he was obliterating them all, and Kuvera had to interfere and said, settle down, you can bring your family here, and this and that. So that's the yaksha. So that yaksha mentality, so we have rakshasas and yakshas, and in this material world it's described as rakshasas, yakshasas, yavanas, malechas, malechadesh. So we'll have all these names. So the yaksha mentality, it's actually very predominating in the West, because it's actually that mode which is sort of really filled with passion. So sometimes in the West, when we're walking along big cities or whatever, we have to keep our eyes straight. We can't look at anybody, otherwise what are you looking at? You know, why are you looking at me? Stop staring at me. And then they want to be belligerent, or you cut somebody off in the traffic and they get out of the car and they hit the windscreen. Very, what did I do? You know, I didn't do anything. You know? So that sort of anger, that yaksha mentality is there. So after the yakshas and the rakshasas, then Lord Brahma's next creation was the light, right? So he created light, and then who absorbed the light? The demigods, right? Because the demigods, they're under the influence of sattva guna, the mode of goodness. It's like Srila Prabhupada actually writes on the cover of Bhakti Godhead, that's always been there, that Godhead is light, darkness is nescience. Where there is light, there is no nescience. So subsequently, after the demigods, then more asuras came out of the backside of Lord Brahma, this time out of his buttocks. They were obsessed with sex pleasure, and they become infatuated with the visible form of Lord Brahma. Of course, Lord Brahma is the ultimate, Adikavi is the ultimate demigod, his very, very beautiful form. And they began to approach Lord Brahma for sex, and he panicked. He had to flee to Lord Vishnu for protection. So Lord Vishnu advised him to cast off this impure body. So as was explained in a few days ago in a lecture, the Prabhu, I can't remember which Prabhu, but he was saying that Lord Brahma, he doesn't have a gross body. Was that you, Prabhu? Was that? Thank you. He doesn't have a gross body like we do. What's our body made up of? Earth, air, fire, water, ether. Gross body. Demigods call us mortals, you know. There's the celestials and the mortals. We go into the they don't want to come to the mortal world, especially in Kali Yuga. So, but Lord Brahma's body is very subtle, mainly comprising of intelligence, buddhi. And intelligence, mind you, is still one of the 25 material elements. I love talking about the elements. It's just so easy to understand, because we have so much confusion that we learn at school. We do chemistry and we learn about the elements, you know, oxygen, water, oxygen, nitrogen, helium, blah, 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 and put it all together, and we have the elements. But these elements, you might say, and we have the elements, the other elements, which is the subtle elements, that you can't see. You can't actually target ether or the mind or the ego and the intelligence. All the modes of material nature, very important. All the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, what to speak of the three sets of senses. They're all elements. We all need. This is how this whole material universe is existing. And then, of course, you need time to get it all started. Very easy to understand when you break it down. So, as Lord Brahma is still in a material body, Brahmā, Bhuvana-loka, Punatino-arjanata, all, so even from Brahma down to the lowest. So, but it was more of a state of a consciousness, as Prabhu was saying, that you had to give up that, discard that state of consciousness. So, what happened? Lord Brahma shed the body and had this beautiful evening twilight about it, like a sunset. And twilight is it's meaningful to not only the demons but to the devotees also. Everyone loves to see a nice sunset. The demigods and the devotees, well, they can appreciate Krishna's beautiful artistry in the sunset. The sky is transformed into a range of spectacular colours, a feast for the eyes. We know how wonderful is Krishna that he can create this. What do the demons think? Well, the demons, they see it. It's a companion for their sense gratification. Oh, look at that, the sunset. That is so nice. But it would be nice if I was intoxicated. You ever had that? In the West, I'm sorry, we're pretty foolish in the West. Oh, it is so nice. I wish I was stoned. I could see it much better, right? It'd be so much more nicer if I was under the influence of intoxications, right? So, what a beautiful sky. So much better if we were intoxicated. But when they get to that state of altered reality, it's still not satisfying enough. Right? It's still not there, And ultimately, their minds, they turn to what? The ultimate pleasure, enjoying sex. That is it. Actually, the thought never really leaves their mind, the kvaṇac. And that is the way of the world today in all respects, that sex is always there. In Bhagavad Gita 3:39, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that in the material world, the center of all activities is sex life. And this material world is called Maitunya Agara, right? Shackles of sex life, right? So wherever you go in the West, we're reminded of that. We know that. So Prabhupada calls it out. It's the atheistic mentality. Why? Because the atmosphere is charged with rajagun, tamagun. It's so thick, it's like a big fog. It's actually very hard to penetrate. The modes are so heavy. Like when we come to Mayapur, we experience that sattvic atmosphere here. Really, the spiritual atmosphere is so charged here. As soon as you leave the 9 islands, you actually say, what's going on? My chanting's not the same. You just feel it. I don't know if you felt that before. And as you're coming towards Mayapur, your chant starts to intensify. So when you go to the West, you sort of get off at the airport and there's all the action going on. You can feel the modes. You can always cut them with a pair of scissors. So that's why it's good that Prabhupada recommends everybody comes to the holy dhams to embrace spiritual life and become absorbed. So materialists is that where they want to be. Why? Because they don't know anything else. Krishna explains in the 7th chapter 13th verse, Tribir gunamayer bhaver ebi sarvam idam jagat mohitam nabjananti mam ebya paramaviyam. Deluded by the 3 modes of material nature, the whole world knows me not, who am inexhaustible and infallible. Srila Prabhupada explains here in the purport that the whole world is enchanted by the 3 modes of material nature. So those who are bewildered as such, they cannot know the transcendental nature of Sri Krishna. They've gone off, they're thinking that I'm the supreme enjoyer. I'm the supreme enjoyer. I'm the king of this. I'm the king of that. Srila Prabhupada once said, you're the king of nothing. So he didn't say that actually, Prabhupada, I'm the lowest fallen person. He said, you're not lowest of anything. So we're like that. We're not king of anything, we're not low. We're just suffering jivas here. So the ironic thing about all of this, we're talking about this beautiful twilight, the sunset, but it's only flickering. We know that. We look at it, and one cloud lights up in the west, and then all of a sudden look, the other cloud's lit up beautifully, and then the whole sky's lit up, and then a few seconds later it's all gone. All gone, right? Where did it go? So that's the nature, the flickering nature. It peaks and all of a sudden it's gone. Every day it's there, and it's only there momentarily. So presently, so those in our society, who are living in our society, we can say they're chasing that twilight zone, right? That's the twilight. They're chasing that happiness, but it's very flickering happiness. Just you can have the example of a rose. That a rose is very beautiful, it's very fragrant. You smell it, and then it starts withering away. And beauty and attraction, well, in the material world, it's only skin deep. So that will fade as well. So people get their knowledge from newspapers and news programs. It's supposed to be full of news, right? I come from a Lithuanian heritage, and my father, we only used to have a radio when I was a small boy. There was no television, no anything, and I'd be listening to something and it goes, oh, zhinas. And that zhinas means jnana, knowledge, right? Lithuanian zhinas, that you're learning, jnana, knowledge. But these days, the newspapers, and there is no knowledge about anything except details about people's lives, the rich and the famous, the megastars, billionaires, and their affairs, their partners, who they're breaking up with, who they're going with next. It's what people want. So the newspapers are catering for that, and it's just been transformed into a whole gossip thing. What is happening there? So it's Brahmā-katha, village talk. There is nothing substantial. Of course, there's no spiritual knowledge ever. So it's often been portrayed by the opinions of the proprietors, of all these media outlets, social media, but it's guiding people's lives. As Bhagavad Gita explains, yad yad chariti Srestha tata devartiti, that whatever a great man does, common men will follow. So all the common people are looking towards the idols, the great movie stars. I don't know about the politicians, but all the rich people, the famous people, the ones who give them the sense gratification, they are giving them credit, and they're following in their footsteps. So what are they doing? So they are falling apart. Marriages, they can't stay together because they have a false sense of expectations. Family units, well, they're splitting apart. In the West, there is no social structure. And the social and moral boundaries, they're all being eroded because people are looking for this happiness. They're looking for this twilight zone, right? So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I am going to read or explain, elaborate a little bit about a conversation that Lord Chaitanya had with Haridas Thakur. It's in the Antya Lila, chapter 3, starts at text number 53. That Lord Chaitanya, on one of his regular visits to Haridas Thakur, because Haridas was in a bhajan kuti on the beach in Jagannath Puri, and he stayed away from the Jagannath temple because he still had that stigma of being a Mohammedan, right? So Lord Chaitanya would visit him every day and give him prasadam. And one day he sat down and he inquired from Haridas, "My dear Haridas, so people in this age of Kali, they're bereft of Vedic culture, and therefore they are called Yavanas, right? They're concerned only with the killing of cows and dismantling the Brahminical culture. In this way, they all engage in sinful acts. How will these yavanas be delivered? To my great unhappiness, I don't see any way. Right? So, in the purport of that, Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Chaitanya's Patita Pavana, deliverer of all the fallen souls, and he's very concerned that how am I going to deliver all these souls? They're so engrossed in their sinful acts. So Haridas, he replied, "My dear Lord, please do not be in anxiety. No need to be unhappy. See the condition of these yavanas, no need to be unhappy seeing the condition of these yavanas in this material existence, because the yavanas, they're accustomed to saying phrases like Harama. They will be very easily delivered by this namabhasya." So also at that point in time there was another, so Harama means, oh how awful, I'm being gored by a boar, I'm killed by a boar. So also there was an example that when there was an eclipse and Nimai was born, Lord Chaitanya was born, then all the devotees were in the Ganges and they were chanting Hari, 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 and all the others, the atheists and the Mohammedans, they were imitating them, going Hari, 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 listen to them. So it was Namabhasya. So then I started to look at the English language. Where does Rama fit in the English language? Where is the Namabhasya there? And I come up with a lot of words. It's quite interesting, like drama, cinerama, melodrama, diorama, panorama. We got a wealth of words, etc. But we also have the syllable Hari, right? So that's a very common name, like Haris and Harrison, George Harrison. So there's the Namabhasya just saying George Harrison, and there's the word Hari. Everybody uses the word Hari. This on people's lips because they're always caught up in the mode of passion, isn't it? Hurry up. I can't stop now, I'm in a hurry. Book distributors, right? No, I'm in a hurry. Hurry, Hare Krishna. Right? So, Namabhasyas. So Haridas is saying, like a devotee, out of ecstatic love, he claims, oh my Lord Ramachandra. But the Yavanas, they're also chanting, Harama, Harama. Just see their good fortune. So, Namacharya Haridas, he's the Namacharya, of course, and we praise his glories every day. So he's the authority on chanting the holy names, and he describes that the chanting of the Lord's holy name to indicate something other than the Lord is an instance of namabhas, right? So even when the holy name is chanted in this way, its transcendental power is not destroyed. Even the Malecha, who's being killed by the tusk of a boar, is crying out again and again, Arama, Arama, he attains liberation. What to speak of those who chant the holy names of the Lord with veneration and faith? And then he gave the example of Ajmil, who was a sinner, total sinner for so many years of his life, but then he named his son Narayan, and he accidentally uttered his son's name, Narayan. Well, he was not accidentally, he was chanting the name of his son, but accidentally it's also, for him, it was very fortunate, it's the name of Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom he'd forgotten. So the attendants of Lord Vishnu came to relieve him from the bonds of Yamaraj. So sometimes, as devotees, we underestimate the power of the holy name. I just heard this story a few years ago. You all probably know it, but it's very pertinent, about this devotee from Russia. He became a devotee, but before he was a devotee, he was very, very antagonistic to the devotees. And when the devotees used to go past chanting in the street, he'd be up on the first floor or something. He would throw things at him. He would throw rocks or water or something, and they would go past and he'd be mimicking him, chanting Hare Krishna, and he'd be antagonizing, very antagonizing. So then he had an accident, and he was on the verge of death. Actually, he's describing that his soul actually, or that his subtle body left his gross body, and he found himself in the court of Yamaraj, and there's all these horrible people just looking at him and saying, "You've been so sinful there, you are getting the results of your karma." And he was totally afraid. And then somewhere or other he said, "Oh, but I saw the Hare Krishnas." He just mentioned the word Krishna, and they all recoiled. "Krishna? Krishna? Oh!" And they all stood back, right? The potency of that one name. And then the judgment was that you better be careful, you can go back into this body, but don't commit any more sinful activities again. So all of a sudden he wakes up, but the dream was very vivid in his psyche, so then he became a devotee. Right, so this is the potency of the holy names. We sometimes don't know. I know when we're engaged in Harinam Sankirtan and everybody's exuberantly chanting, and some of us older folk have to relieve ourselves or something, and then we look, where's the chanting party? And we're following the chanting party. It's like they leave a wake, like a boat's going fast and the water is sort of, leaving a big wake like that. So same with the chanting party, we cut the vibrations of the atmosphere, and everybody's talking about the Hare Krishnas. Oh, Hare Krishnas, you want to join the Hare Krishnas? If you the Hare Krishna. So it's just this whole wake there, so it's so potent. That's why I always, Prabhupada said, when they're dancing and chanting, so nice to see tilak, simanta on the ladies, saris, dhotis. He goes, prayachita, Prabhupada, prayachita in the Bhagavatam class in Nairobi. So nice to see the chanting. And we're in the mood of the Goswamis, the Rupanugas, so dancing and chanting like madmen. So this gives the namabasa, so much namabasa to the people. Otherwise, it has to start somewhere. They're not chanting with awe and reverence, but then there's the namabasa there. So Haridas, he continued, "My dear Lord, the deliverance of all moving and non-moving living entities will take place by your mercy only. But you already granted this mercy and delivered them. You have already chanted loudly the Hare Krishna mantra, and everyone has benefited by hearing this. Although inconceivable, it's only possible by your mercy. So when the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is performed all over the world by those who follow in your footsteps, then all those living entities will dance in ecstatic devotional love." So this is all in the 3rd chapter of Anchi Leela. Haridas mentioned how it was narrated to him that he said, "Someone told me, my dear Lord, that you delivered all the animals in the Jarakanda forest. And my dear Lord, you have accepted a form of a devotee just to deliver all the fallen souls of this world." So Lord Chaitanya accepted this, and he made another inquiry, very interesting inquiry. But if all the living entities are liberated, the entire universe will be devoid of living beings. Haridas said, "My dear Lord, as long as you are situated in this material world, you will deliver all the living entities in every different species. Then you will awaken those living entities who are not yet developed and engage them in activities, and the entire universe will again be filled up as it was previously." So he cited when Lord Ramachandra, he went back to his own spiritual abode, and he took all the living entities of Ayodhya with him. And then he filled Ayodhya again with other living entities. Lord Krishna, he did the same by delivering all the living entities in Vrindavan. So Haridas said, "My dear Lord, you set the plan in motion. You descended as an incarnation in Navadvip, just like Lord Krishna. You've already delivered all the living entities of this universe. That is my conclusion." Lord Chaitanya, he was silent because Haridas is saying, you are the Supreme Person of Godhead. He didn't want to hear that. But internally he was so happy that as soon as he went to see all the devotees, he's describing the glories of Haridas Thakur. He knows my inner feelings. He's so great. He's just so magnanimous. So that was a wonderful story. So this conversation illustrated the potency of the holy name and the need for devotees to propagate all over the world. Pachivate Chaitado Nada Harigram, that every town and village, this is the process for self-realization that was given to us by the acharyas. So putting ourselves out there, giving the name to people, some people will namabas, other people will be sincere within the heart, it will change their life and rearrange and there'll be the beginning of their spiritual life. We don't know who, as we know in book distributors, some people come up and they're very receptive, they've been looking for this and they move on in their spiritual life. This is what we're here for. We're here to facilitate people's spirituality. So we can't escape. So, you know, sometimes people think, oh, this world's just too hectic, it's too crazy, it's too bewildering. I'm going to find a solitary place and do my bhajan. Well, it's not that's not recommended. We can't escape. It's our own Kali Yuga mind to start with. I'll just think of myself, like if I'm somewhere in a solitary place, I'm still nasochiti na kāñcī, you know, hankering about the future, what I'm going to do in the future, where I'm going to go next year, or what I should be doing, where I should be staying, or lamenting about the past, why didn't I join sooner, why did I... So this is always going on. The mind is very difficult to control, and there's always living entities that will come and annoy us in all species, human species and other species. So continuing on with chapter 3 in the Antya-lila, there's also the story about Haridas in this regard. In chapter 3 that says that Haridas, he wanted to do his bhajan, right? He chanted 300,000 names of Lord daily. So he wanted peace and quiet solitude to do that. So he went to a village, and just outside of the village, fairway in the jungle, he built a thatched hut and he was engaged in his meditation. Nevertheless, the villagers found him and they started praising that a saint has come near our village. And the local authority was a Muslim ruler by the name of Ramachandra Khan. And he was very envious of the devotees. He couldn't tolerate this, they're talking about this great saint. This is a real thorn in his side. So within the short space of time, Haridas is chanting his bhajan, and all of a sudden there's this most attractive, alluring young lady that appears at his cottage, claiming that she's very attracted to him and wanted him to satisfy her sexual desires. So Haridas goes, yes, that is possible, I can do this, but first I have to finish my prescribed rounds. You know, I've promised, I've made a vow, but you sit there, you know, when I finish we can do this, okay? So he started chanting and chanting. So the first night, he was chanting and she fell asleep, right? And he woke up in the morning, oh, you missed it, I'm so sorry, but if you come back today, I'm sure I've nearly finished my monthly rounds, the 10 million rounds after chant, so it'll be finished today, I assure you, right? So she comes back all dressed up in her alluring postures and everything. But this time, the second night, she begins to chant with him, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So she's chanting along, and then of course she falls asleep again, and then, look, I'm so sorry that you fell asleep, you missed out, but if you come tonight for sure. So of course, the third night, she becomes so purified by hearing him chanting as pure devotee, that as soon as she got there, she just confessed. She said, actually, I'm not here, I'm not attracted to you, I was sent here by the Khan to actually spoil you and have you arrested and things like that. So Haridas, he said, yes, I knew this. I actually knew this as soon as you came. He said, I could have got up and walked away immediately, but I wanted to liberate you. And you should actually take up this chanting now, sell all your possessions because they're contaminated, because her life she was a courtesan. And so they just come and chanted, Krishna will look after you. And then she did, and she became famous, and Haridas became famous for converting her into a devotee. So this is the lesson that we learn from Haridas that you can't escape. But no matter how terrible and no matter how terrible the situation in the material world and how confusing it is, instead of shunning him, instead of shunning everything, we attempt to give this Krishna Bhakti to all the living entities. So for us, that is the safest strategy. Devi hi esha gunamai mama matyaduratya mamevaya pajante mametam tarantite. What does Krishna say? But this divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, sattva, rajas and tama, very difficult to overcome, but one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this is the process of surrender for us. Take shelter, Krishna, by following the footsteps of great acharyas, and we will remain safe from the clutches of Maya. Thank you very much for your attention. We have some comments, questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the class. You explained the pastime of Haridas Thakur. It's such a nice pastime. Usually in my case, if I see some trouble comes, like for Haridas Thakur, the prostitute had come. For in my case, when trouble comes, we don't think of giving that person, Krishna or something. We say, go away or push. So how do we develop this mentality of Haridas Thakur? No, he has also come troubling me, but still I will give him Krishna.
Thank you very much for your question. I have been meditating on this fact also, because I'm exactly like you. If someone gives me trouble, I just think, how can I shut them down? What's the quickest way to shut them down without committing offences? But I've seen other devotees who I respect so much, who are more into the sattva guna, who are more in the mode of goodness than I am. And a lot of the times the devotees are very patient, so if someone is just pointing the finger at them and accusing them of this, or creating some disturbance, sometimes those devotees are very, very patient and tolerant, and they hear them out, and they are actually very polite, and if they have an argument to reply with, they do it in a very, very polite manner so as not to further agitate that person, or otherwise they say thank you very much. And I think the lesson we learn from that is we don't aggravate that situation any further. Sometimes that's the best we can do, however, whatever intelligence we have. Is that all right? Thank you. Yes,
Dhanavad Prabhu. Thank you so much for the way you have treated this particular purport. My thought is running towards the fact that Brahmaji cast off his body. Brahma cast off his body. Correct?
Cast off his body, yes.
Did he die?
Yeah. He died. Oh, okay. So, as was explained a couple of days ago, so not really, because Lord Brahmā, his body is different to ours. We can't understand. For us to cast off our body, we have to cast off our material body. Because Lord Brahmā had a very, very subtle body, his body was made of intelligence, that he was able to shed that body. That is also cited in the Bhagavatam, when he had that incident with his daughter, that he came overwhelmed by the motor passion, he also shed off that body. So from that we can understand that Lord Brahma, it's not that he dies, not that the jiva leaves the body, but he's actually able to just, as Prabhu here described, is more of the mentality that he cast aside. Perhaps Prabhu, do you want to elaborate a little bit further on this? Or
like as the Sridhar Swami also mentioned in the purport, previous sloka, he gave the mentality. So as in our life, we also see that we are also transformed. Previously what we were there and now what we are. So it has totally, the mentality has changed. Although it may appear that our body has changed or we may have changed. Like if someone who knows me 15 years back, when he would see me, then he would say that, oh, you have changed. So because it is like mentality, and definitely as the body changing, so I'm not going in that. But it's like kind of mentality that how we are shifting from that material conception and moving towards like more spiritual way.
Thank you so much. One more question. My legs are going to go into cramp stage.
Slowly. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
It was really nice. Prabhu, I'm asking, in continuation with his question, he asked how Haridas Thakur is so kind and he is just giving Harinam to even a prostitute. I think, my thinking, please correct me, Prabhu, my thinking is this stage of giving of Harinam, this mentality comes spontaneously and it is automatic when the sadhana level is going just level to the Haridas Thakur. I think it is a spontaneous and automatic. So please correct me.
Prabhu, you're so right, because actually when we become infused with Krishna, we become spiritualized. So, of course, Haridas was a pure devotee. So he's just spiritualized. So he was actually spiritual energy. So when somebody comes into contact with spiritual energy, if they have any sincerity whatsoever, they will absorb that energy and become infused in spiritual life. But if someone is totally demoniac, then they will become very, very aggravated. So there's that bipolar thing. But the more the devotee is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then the more the potency that Krishna gives that potency. So therefore, when there is some interaction there, the potency of devotee is actually very, very strong. Okay, Prabhu?
So yes, Prabhu, that's right.
Right.
So my thought was, so we no need to practice for this. I think I should go and develop my more sadhana, or I should do more sadhana so that I can reach some level, so that I can think about that, what Haridas.
Yeah, it's all about purification also. As Prabhupada said something, Srila Prabhupada said something to that respect, you're following me because I'm detached from the material, I'm detached from sex life. So therefore, you all are attracted in this sense. Some words to that effect. So one becomes more attractive by how purified he becomes by this process of Krishna consciousness, which is always our sadhana, our guru, our sadhu, and our shastra. So by the practice of this sadhana, then we develop all these qualities in the footsteps of Haridas Thakur. Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.